你这些就变成我的同党，很战过来。
你这统战能力太强。
这个中国学来的嘛。
So you'll start?
Yeah, okay.
Sharing?
Yeah, I'll start. I'll start. It's okay. Tee it up.
Use your framework.
Alice. Oh, sorry. Can you give me a book? My book, just one. Can wave them around.
I'm here.
Just one book.
Because we need to go Congress after this.
No lunch?
No time. Sorry.
This is double set. Here we start.
Yeah.
Tired.
没东西吃。
Unlike those big conferences in China, you get really nice food. Sit down there.
没了，这里就是 madhouse chaos.
It's very bright though.
Yeah.
With eyes.
你看着我，OK，我看着你，
Better.
这样子。我这个很亮。哦，live stream 它有亮度，live stream 它有光。OK， got it. What time we start? Now? We can start anytime? All right. Hi, everybody. Okay. Hi, everybody. Let me introduce myself. I am Fred Tsao from Singapore. We're at Davos, exploring partnership and co-creation. Co-creating the future needs to connect and have partnership to give them some structure. And with me today is Ms. Li Nan from UNTEC. She's a Senior Director for Enterprise and Investment. And today we need business to change. We need investment to be more impactful. There needs to be a new consciousness for both business, enterprise, and investment. Earlier this morning, I was at Davos doing a live stream on the ocean. We talk about systemic intervention. What business can do is, even with the maximum creativity, is to integrate those agenda into restoring the ocean into new matrix, new business model. But we still need the finance and investment sector to make this into an asset class, to channel different type of money into it, even insurance, to de-risk it so that we can get the main pipe of money that goes in the world, which are controlled by, pension funds and so forth, which is really long-term money we need. So whether it's green financing, whether it is impact investments, this is in the whole supply chain. But ultimately, what we need to do is the operating business, changing the business model, making it sustainable, making it make money, but with a new matrix, looking at new opportunity. So this morning we said, look, the whole system is in the process of deconstruction and construction. And so the opportunity in both the deconstruction phase and like circular economy and on the construction phase, which otherwise the process called reconstruction process of a new economy, which United Nations called Wellbeing and Happiness Economy. Because we just want to be well and happy. But how can we be well and happy if our family, if our business, if our neighbors, if society and Earth and the whole life system is not well? How can we be well? So we have to acknowledge that we can be well only if all is well. That we need to work together to create, because all needs to get involved. The whole humanity needs to get involved. Sustainability has been a topic for centuries, actually. these are doubt the human asks, are we on the right track? But this time sustainability takes a different role. They really have to reflect and think and act, because otherwise we may not exist. So with this big challenge, we know that we're going to evolve into the next level of humanity consciousness and purpose to focus on well-being and happiness. When AI comes, they take our job. We might only work 1 day a week, but we're fearful. Oh my God, AI took my job. But maybe we have to think about that taking our job is not losing a job, but taking a job is repositioning into a potentially more aligned and better job. You have 6 days to do what we can do. So what we can do if AI take our job, AI is intelligence that we can never beat. So all we have to do is go back to be human and human relationship and collaborate and work so we can create this new reality, this new future with a new consciousness and flourish. So today, we have UNTAC. Why is important? United Nations have give us the way. That is a collective consciousness and effort of people from all nations, detached from south, from north, from poor, from rich, to come to some conclusion. Everybody signed the 17 goals. And we're still working on happiness reports, and we still don't know what is the Millennium Goals of holistic and how do we do systemic transformation. So it's a long setting. I would like to pass the little conversation. I know Linan for a while because through Family Business Network, we collaborate with UNTAC. So Linan, would you say something, whatever you like to share?
Thank you, Fred, for inviting me for this interesting conversation on partnership and co-creation. So I came from Geneva, actually not too far, still it's far away, but still 5 hours drive. We're based in the Palais. So UN Trade and Development is the body in the UN promoting trade, investment, finance, and innovation for Global South. We just celebrated our 60 years this June, right? And then brought together heads of states, thought leaders, and private sectors to really reflect the past and the future and where we're heading for. Just a quick, maybe Paul, check with the group. How many of you, I think most of you probably all know about SDG 17 goals, but how many of you are also following the Pact for the Future? Can we raise hands? How many people have heard about the Pact for the Future? Oh, wow, okay. So I think I need to do more advocacy work.
You need your communication officer to work on that.
So last September, the heads of states gathered in New York to really discuss what is the challenge we're facing, how do we foster more multilateralism, and how do we really prepare ourselves for the new challenges of AI, in the digital era, how do we look at the outer space issues, and what are the kind of the common actions we need to take to help our future generations. So there was a declaration passed unanimously by 193 heads of state on Pact of the Future. So it touched from climate to digital agenda, so the digital global pact, right? So this sets the common actions that we need to take on top of what SDG 17 has outlined, right? Among these challenges, let me also maybe recall a history of how UN is working with private sector. I think most of you come from private sector, right? So before 2015, right? So in the UN, of course, UN as the intergovernmental body. So in most of these prominent meetings, is most government representatives at the table talking about policy making, the sustainable development issues. And in 2015, there was an important meeting on financing for sustainable development in Addis Ababa, where again heads of state reflected how much financing gap we were facing achieving the SDGs. Right, still things have not improved. after 10 years. So this year, we will actually gather again in Spain in June, 10 years after Addis Ababa action, to reflect what have we progressed, right? And in terms of financing gap, it is still we're facing, the big numbers of trillions, right? Whether you take the our UNCTAD study or the UNDESA study, we're looking at anywhere between 5 to 7 trillions a year, right? So there's a huge financing gap, and the public sector realize this is not something that they could achieve by just public revenues. We need private sector actions, solutions, and financing in co-creating the future we need. And this year, there will be more collaborations, more calls for actions, and more partnerships with private sector. And it's not just about financing, right? Financing is important, that we need to leverage what Fred mentioned from the institutional investors, the large sovereign wealth funds, and the VCP funds and families, right? So that's why UNCTAD started to have actually a partnership with Family Business Network to work with the families to look at how we look at long-term vision and these intergenerational issues to get the families, which actually family business account for more than 70% of the global GDP, to really move into more of these sustainable development areas. Right. So we need financing and we need innovation. Right. So the innovation came from many of these private sector solutions. We've seen that these long-term research by labs and by the innovation from not just technology but also from different ways of thinking, different ways of doing business, different ways of collaborating, and different ways of really integrating with each other. So these are the innovations we need to drive transformational changes for the future. And what we need is to also harness the power of the youth. Youth is a very important issue in the whole Pact for the Future, right? We've seen that discontent, unemployment has caused Arab Spring, has disrupted the society. But on the other hand, we've seen how youth entrepreneurs, youth innovators have also contributed to the new development paradigm. This is very important agenda. So I'm really very happy to be here and to share my experiences in the UN and also working with different private sectors, from the large institutionals to family businesses to entrepreneurs, right? And how we can collaborate for change. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lina. If you don't know, UN turned a long time to prepare for the Summit of the Future in September, also Climate Week. It's a really big effort within UN to reinvent the new UN, right? With a new direction that's contextualized today. I think we need to follow UN activities because they're the collective signal for us on how people or nations agree or disagree on things, and to give us a temperature of the big picture. So from the private sector, I'm the Council of Wisdom Chairman within the FBN, which is the biggest family business network, to drive the impact agenda throughout it, because we realize that the 70% want to do it because we are aligned to do sustainability, we want it, but are not aware on our responsibility that we have to because we do it for ourselves, and number two, how. So what I have done is that we will mobilize on the private sector to take responsibility. However, to working with UN, which is the big picture that we really need to follow, if every nation can to move in all their own direction, there will be no unity and we cannot solve the problem. So United Nations is a platform for people to agree, for nations to agree, so we can have the ability to unify through the nation, and therefore without that framing, private sector will be all over the place, and global humanity cannot have an infrastructure to really co-create with innovation, but be, as you can see, more conflicted and divided. But my experience working with UN is like going into a maze, and it's a very complex process. Now, so far, for my group and through my effort, we have done one with a UN Compact, which is designed to interface with business on education, which is really excited what we want to do. And then through FBN, on the impact, we're working with UNTAC. Now, I talk with Inan a lot. There is about the thing about leadership. Now, this is not going to move without leadership, right? And then when we lead, we're still also leading where? We have to have a common vision. Leadership is about vision. It's about uniting the I to we to move towards this vision. And Chinese have a specific way of interpret. So, Lina, I want to ask you, number one question. You're Chinese, you're at UN, you're in the system for a long time. You're talking about engaging Asia, which is, really important sector in the formula of sustainability, and also very important economics. But the engagement and bridge between East and West is not satisfactory. How do you feel in United Nations? And, this book that I want to promote is a paradigm of change theory, systems, intervention, using Chinese wisdom. And we discuss. So how do you like to respond to these two questions? Personally, it's not like pretty difficult.
Thanks. But let me still start from the UN side, right? So UN is a space where all people come from all diverse cultures, right? So first, the basis is really the shared value. I think UN has a set of value and framework, and this is and purpose. What I do myself is to really look at how we infuse value and purpose into everyday's job, right? So when I started this new role, leading the division for investment and enterprise, I was a new leader, right? So the first thing I did, really, I organized a workshop, and then I did not start with work planning, really, just to start the session, not with just a lecture of where I am and where I'm from, but really just to ask a simple question: what are you here for? Why did you join the UN? Right, just by simple reflection like that, it really helped open the hearts. I have to say, not just open the workshop. And people start to give me very interesting answers. One answer was that one colleague said, I was from Global South, right, one of the countries in a small island. We were not happy with what IMF did, in changing this financial architecture in this arrangement. So we want to do something good, use my knowledge and expertise to do something good for the world, right? And our colleagues really reflected the many difficulties and personal journey they've gone through to stay in the UN system and still strive for change. And it's not easy, right? So, of course, when external people who are not familiar with the UN think, of course, there's really a group of idealists coming together to strive for change. But in reality, we face so many challenges, right? And this is where we need resilience as well. So when these difficulty issues, debates among different member states, sometimes you don't really get the ideal solution. Sometimes you don't get agreements, and sometimes a project you worked for 3 years, and it's gone when you face a government change, right? So all these, what we say, factors that is out of your control and is out of your personal influence are happening every day. So it's not that easy. But by really reflecting the purpose and then the why, ask the question of why. People care about saying why you are here to do what you do. The deep purpose reflecting really helped building consensus. So I think what is important is if you look at among UN value to Chinese wisdom, I think Fred is really deep into this research, right? So and also by living it, right? Important is that we need to be connected to our deep purpose, to who we are, and then being consistent. I think in Chinese philosophy, we say the mind, the actions, and the words needs to be in alignment. I think this is so important when we live in a really diverse culture. This is how we build trust, right? This is how we start to get people to form together as a group, as a team, as a high-performing team. It's really the trust building, consistency, and then really people see who you are as a leader, then in driving those changes. So.
Well, many people are skeptical about UN because its executional capability is limited. But if you really look at the work of UN, it does unite a certain direction. It depends who wants to execute it in each of the nation. But the openness for dialogue, the collective and agreement direction, I think UN, these two things are undervalued about the UN leadership to humanity. Now, recently, I was in the Systemic Forum, and I met a Swedish, very fast-growing initiative called Inner Development Goals. Now, there is this big thing coming up. And certainly here in this place, this inner development is rather important. As I was outside, we all realized there's no reality outside of our mind, that we really need to get in to connect with ourselves, because that's nature. We are nature. So there's a movement that's going and completing. Of course, we like to offer our discovery, our offering to UN, so they can revisit next time the Sustainable Development Goals to include the inner development goals besides the outer development goals, because they're not separable. What do you think the possibility of private sector influencing UN to consider? Because we do not have, at best, we have some nonprofit attendees. What do you think about the possibility, Linan, of us bringing that to UN as one of the direction building?
I think this is a very important topic. I don't know if many of you are aware, when the Millennium Development Goals were developed, right? It was just 8 large goals, right? It was developed really not through extensive consultation, right? So that was a bit criticized when we were starting to develop Sustainable Development Goals, right? So the UN learned that in that process, in developing Sustainable Development Goals, we've gone through really extensive consultation, engagement with different civil society groups, private sectors, corporates, financial sector, to look at the different roles and contribution from different walks of society in developing the SDGs. But you're right, on these 17 goals, what you call the outer goals, right, does not really touch how the interconnections between the inner side with the outer side. And this actually not just private sector is advocating. There are a few countries also advocating how we should look at future development trajectory differently. Right. If we look at countries like Bhutan, like New Zealand, now from their national development planning, they are looking at wellness being, right? And they are looking at national happiness beyond GDP. There is actually a work stream in the whole Pact for Future called Beyond GDP. It's to advocating to governments, financial world, to capital world, to look beyond just how you measure your GDP, right? Look at beyond just economic perspective. Look at really social and also other perspectives of well-being. So this is really gaining momentum. Actually, yesterday, I think, there was a panel on beyond GDP, right? Looking into wellness, these issues. I think the more discussions and more dialogues on those issues at various occasions, be it intergovernmental or be it at WEF, this type of public-private platforms, the more momentum we can build, then the more it reaches the policymakers' desks. So we can take this to these more intergovernmental forum to have more of these discussions on how we look into these future development trajectories.
Well, I know you have been in the system, World Bank, everything in the UN. And we have a group of constituency, this community that cannot really get a voice because we don't know how to channel our voice. I also know that UN do have a different nonprofit that participate, but that does not mean the collective voice of this community here, which I belong, and the voice needs to be heard. How can we have a voice in UN? By the time it goes through web and country there, it's so diluted, it's so far away. We like to build a community here where we can actually find a more direct way to have our voice heard by the world on the highest level in UN. Any suggestion there? What leadership can help? Which department or how?
Okay. So when World Economic Forum first started, right, there was a debate even in the UN. Should UN participate, right? So, because for a while, of course, the forum by many CSOs were perceived to be just, too much about elites, right? Too much about rich people, corporate world. And then there's a debate in the UN. How should UN work with private sector, work with WEF, work with different diverse stakeholders? And say this year, you would be able to see many heads of the UN entities are here to actually engage in these debates, right? It's not to say that we endorse or support any particular view, but I think this type of dialogue is important to have these different views and then also understand how these different agenda is shaping. And then we can also promote the UN agenda here with the private sector. I think there are multiple channels, right? So the UN organize regularly all sorts of dialogue conferences at national, regional, global level, and through also WEF, they also give us their opinion inputs, right? Professor Schwab just met with SG and head of our organization yesterday to discuss collaboration. There are all sorts of these avenues, and then you can also participate in these consultation workshops, and then also directly send your suggestions views to these emails. If you can even click on the website, right? So Future Compact and all these work stream, and there's also focal point. It's all transparency information. So I just encourage everyone to really take the effort and then bring these ideas and these momentum to the different UN occasions and agenda, right? And this, I think, is supposed to be a conversation. So let me ask you also some questions, right? So,
fortunately, a very short one because our time has run out.
Right. So it's too many.
Please ask one question, but yes. I got signal. You overrun.
Right. So this is really to say, I know Fred has been tirelessly championing this sustainability, these new ideas on connecting with inner world, with external world. How do you actually bridge these gaps? Because I know that in my way of dealing with a lot of people from Western culture, it's mostly focused on logic, focused on all these. We have a lot of arguments, right, in the UN. So how to build consensus? It's not easy, right? So from the family perspective, how do you persuade, like say the family leaders in the West, right? So large families to join you in this journey. I think would be very interesting to hear as well.
Good. I want to ask the timekeeper how much time we have. Oh, so grateful. I thought it's like few minutes. Okay. Thank you very much, Linan. As we said earlier, family business account for 70. Now, the thing is, family business is pretty much aligned because we want sustainability, we want legacy, we want continuation, we want add value. However, the level of consciousness is not there. So that is the work. And then for the small, medium-sized family business, it's really down the supply chain. They even have no idea what's happening. And then if you go to media, it's very confusing. And if you say, well, come to Davos, they won't come to Davos. So we, of course, now with technology, I think we can reach out to them a lot more like today's screening. But personally, I have put my worldview, my experience, my observation on this theory of change, on this systemic intervention, and on my observation on sustainability. And I wish to highlight that we don't really understand China because we don't have this understanding of the Chinese worldview. And sometimes when China declared the direction to outside, it looks like really fluffy. What is that about? But actually, Chinese are very accurately defining the direction. They don't say easily, and they don't change easily. So how do we really understand with some foundation understanding of what they're doing? And of course, China, big economy, already second, if not getting close to the first, really needs to understand the impact. The new geopolitics is important. And for us, we need to build based on the system platforms, because without structure and platforms, innovation is like air. It's just, it doesn't really accumulate. So community is extremely important. And I call this community here, Davos, and those listening outside, the rainbow warrior for humanity, for our future. We need to create a rainbow, a beautiful future, with our heart, with our dedication, and endless efforts. So for me, as a family business, the first I need to do is transform myself, which I have to do a lot of personal work, inner work. And then the family, we have to get them along to that journey of I to we. And then the company. And then with the company, then the resources that we can align to the I to we process, we can effect the impact onto the world together. And because business is so important in integrating the tripartite, the PPPP, so to say, partnership thing, and they must take responsibility and leadership to do that, because we want to change the market economy. Because the competence of business is integration, is management, is efficiency, effectiveness of driving performance. So they not only have the role, they have the toolbox, they have the orientation, and have the training. So when business goes social and environmental, they can do it. Why? I'm doing it. I was talking in the Social Innovation House, we need to collaborate because you are social, doing entrepreneurship. I'm entrepreneur, doing social. I think we can be button and buttonhole. Because the way I see you, you're all social and little entrepreneurship, and really don't understand. For me, I have to learn more to be social and understand the reality that you're facing, the challenges, and how we can collaborate. But business is quite far. The bigger the business, the more further it's with community. So our reality is far, but to learn to be social, we help small, medium-sized enterprise now transformation to add social. Why? Because they're directly serving community. Big business is far up the supply chain. So it's very important to get small, medium-sized company. And also very important for startup to do it right. Because this is ground level execution. They don't do well, big business supply chain cannot effect their true impact. So therefore, in the family business, like myself, for our own sake, for the whole systemic understanding, for our own flourishing, we have to bring the whole family business up to speed so we can have a collaboration within the system of supply chain to effect effective impact. Thank you.
Very well said. Actually, let me add a comment on that, because in addition to the family business network, we also have a micro, small, medium-sized enterprise initiative where we are actually working with 60 countries on the ground to really cultivate that support for this group, because they actually need more hands-on support. You mentioned a business model. I think it's so important. Business model, market access, how they can also green the supply chain. They play a very important role, but they are also struggling because they are small of scale. They are some of them are really struggling with the daily survival, right? So now, of course, with the sustainability imperative, they particularly those who are operating, wanting to come into the EU market, they need to also face the very strict ESG requirements and all these compliance regulations. So so I think they really need more support on the ground, and then particularly from the whole supply chain. The bigger corporates, if bigger investors and bigger corporates can offer that support and integrate these MSMEs into their supply chain, I think this we have seen to be very important for their future development. Yeah. So what's your? I'm just wondering, what's your kind of suggestions or proposals to get those network effect really working out, to have the bigger ones also really be able to support more of the smaller ones?
Well, indeed. I think that we are now launching in March in Hong Kong and Singapore, Association of Wellbeing Economy. Because with this trade association thinking oriented, I'm doing business. But why we call economy, now we're aligned with UN goals. And then we're thinking about we're not doing business, we're doing economy. If economy is not well, how can my business be well? And so you elevate first with a name and orientation. Most of it be small, medium-sized, but they also have micro and even one-man band business, because that's a trend too, startup. Even you go home and I bake cakes and sell online. There's all kinds of new models are coming up. But we need a convening learning platform. And then, of course, I'm doing a lot of work to get the bigger families and then corporation and the whole supply chain of business and economic maker, key one into the association to help them. And we'll have learning programs. And the thing is, and I intended that, we'll talk to WEF and say, can you make a space? Because they can't afford your fees, but maybe association can pay a fee, and then every year you allow a certain number of our members to come and see and interact and understand, because they're the one who's really going to execute the ESG in the community level. They are the one with the real impact the business can make on the community level. And so we can channel impact investment and everything. But we also want to see if they can have an even bigger perspective from a United Nations. Because WEF is still very much from a business perspective, although a lot of nations are participating. Is there any opportunity, and which is the channel that those enterprise can have access to UN activity? And I know that you have a very important, which I've attended, called World Investment Forum. Now, in those forums, these will never be able to participate and to learn and to see what countries, what big investment, and what even FBN does there.
Sure. I think many UN entities have their entrepreneurship development program, right? I think there is a call from the field, from the governments also, to strengthen support to MSMEs, right? So we're actually going through our own 4-year strategic planning cycle. So we will have our, every 4th year, the global ministers gathering to shape our future strategic plan for our organization, right? Many of them from Global South in particular emphasize the role of MSMEs in contributing to real economy, what you are saying, right? So it's not those hot money flowing around the financial centers. We want to really concrete business, positive social business models contributing to real economy. And in terms of this support, as I said, our IMPRI-Tech program are already active in 60 countries. Of course, we're still limited by our resource and reach, right? But we offer a platform for people to collaborate. We want to build an ecosystem for partners to really co-create. So this year, actually just 2 days ago, the Vietnamese Prime Minister announced that they will host this year's World Investment Forum in Vietnam. And again, we will make it an open platform. We will not charge participation fees, but really welcome the business leaders, entrepreneurs, youth to come together, and women business leaders. We actually have a Women Business Award, right, to look at the best innovations in this field to strengthen women's leadership in driving this agenda. So we will have a big gathering 2 years ago. It's every 2 years, World Investment Forum. We had in Abu Dhabi, we had 8,000 people, right? So this year in Vietnam, we would also look forward to working with different networks, different thought leaders, different champions and change makers to really build a community in this time in Southeast Asia. Thank you.
Can you give these small, medium-sized company a platform like you gave to FBN?
You are putting me on the spot.
No, you have to answer to
we'll of course discuss with our host on what's the possibility if they have this capacity, how much the capacity to host, right? But our intention is really to make it inclusive and really offer opportunity for mutual learning. And then really offer a community building opportunity. We would like to at least invite, we want to probably at least several hundred, right, representatives to come together to really build a community for MSMEs. Thank you.
Well, business is already struggling on the bigger ones. Down there is really struggling right now. They have no resources. And if they wait for United Nations to go through to countries to reach them, they already become the desert. So is there any way that these resources from United Nations can help them, training program, exposure program, whatever, that these small, medium-sized company can access to?
Okay, let me first start by saying that UN has very constrained resource. Right. So right now we're facing many challenges. Right. We're facing a challenge to multilateralism. You probably already heard that on Trump's first day, he already withdrew from World Health Organization. Right. So we're living really a multipolar world. Right. These challenges and also on the Ukraine-Russian war, right? These geopolitical challenges and that has really consumed a lot of resources for development. Now we're hearing this call for allocating 5% of GDP into defense, while we have always been advocating as a UN for the developed countries to allocate their 2% to supporting global development, but that never happened. So the official aid still staggering at just 220 billion per year, which is uncomparable to really the cost on defense. So I don't think we can rely on UN for resources. That's not where our role is. I think the UN is there to really put the policy agenda, as the intergovernmental forum, and as the kind of the ecosystem builder. And all this innovation has to be indigenous. And many innovation come from the community, come from private sector. And we play a role in what we say is 3 C's, right? So in convening, right? We convene for important policy agenda, for important development discussions, right? We connect. We need to connect the communities, right? In building these shared communities and different networks, right? And we collaborate with you and with many others here to really co-create solutions. That's our role.
Well, of course, we totally understand UN now in this geopolitical and chaotic and economic situation. I mean, war does nobody any good. It consumes unnecessary resource, energy, and destruction, which is incredibly damaging. So, of course, big countries like the United States withdrawing will rock the thing, but I truly believe that UN will stand because we need UN Otherwise, how do we go to be united humanity, right? What I thank you because you let us know what we really want is how can we have a voice. We want a voice in web. Would like to have a voice in UN to speak for this community. I think, yes, that's personally, I think all the advocacy everybody is doing outside of the Congress is so that a voice for the community to speak. And still, the Congress people, which has great influence, are slow to come and participate. But I believe, like myself as a member, we will galvanize because we need it too. Time? 10 minutes. So maybe we should open the floor. I want to thank Linan for giving us the leadership and the perspective of UN leadership and how the leadership that's coming from different sector can actually work together directly to make it more effective. So I'll open the floor for any questions or any comments.
Thank you, Mr. Tsao. Thank you, Ms. Linan. So my name is Nathan. I'm from China, and I was the president of ISEC in mainland of China, one of the world's largest student youth development organizations. So my question and maybe also the reflections of what you guys are talking about is the voice can be shared in the bigger platform. And so 6 years ago, I left ISEC, and then now I was a global speaker to bridge Chinese youth and the global youth and about peace and communications. How can young people, especially 18 to 35, which their working age was under 10 years, and they don't have that much of resources and money. And I'm looking at the trend that in China, a lot of young people didn't get employed because of there's a lot of new trends are coming up, solo entrepreneur for young people. How can we have this kind of voice be heard and to share to the global world? And especially as a Chinese, I don't see a lot of presence in Davos. So that's why the connection between the East and the West, especially in the younger generations under 35, is not visible. How can Mr. Tsao, in your private sector, especially you have your senior experience in your area, can support this, or maybe we can help us out. And from the UN is to hear the voice of from the young people and maybe have the initiative. That's a question. And also, thank you so much for the sharing. It's really inspiration.
Well, let's start with the big picture.
One more question, maybe there, I think 2 or 3 we collected.
Oh, yeah, good idea. It's more efficient, not enough time. Any questions we'd like to?
First row.
Yes.
Hello, my name's Catherine, and I'm here with a venture called Nature's Return, and it is one of these advocacy ventures to really engage people in conversations out in nature to reclaim, I say, our natural intelligence, connection to nature, connection to our biocultural heritage, and connection to place. That's really important. And before this, I did a lot of media communications work, and I was collaborating with Eurovision, which is the leading media partner here and Davos. Over a number of years, we were working with the WEF to develop a conversation around natural intelligence. And within the context of that, we were working to frame this system called News Direct. Now, Eurovision is a membership organization of all the largest TV, radio, news, broadcasting networks, agencies globally. And so Eurovision is something of the mothership, right, of news and TV. And we designed, or as part of designing this News Direct platform to really reclaim that independent journalism ethic and value of really bringing the people to the table of news. And having worked in these newsroom settings, there's always a need for this interstitial content. So we were offering the people, so it could be SMEs, it could be, for us, it was Global South, Indigenous women, it was the Original Nations, Indigenous, and youth. They were part of this movement with us to really create content that would be available to literally media worldwide, direct, bypass everything. Of course, the news agencies need to, those at the desk need to cross-check it, but talk about access, massive. And now the system is developed with AI, so you can target specific newsroom departments, finance. You can do so much. And then COVID hit, and interesting, there's no question, it's an offering, and it's a huge offering.
So how do we contact you because of limited time?
Through
how
you.
can we be in touch?
Through you, because we'll have a conversation about this. But I think this is actually a really beautiful opportunity for exactly what you're wanting to do with access and communications.
That's very good. We will build a platform community, and we'll try to coordinate and then direct people to different panels. Any other more? No more? Let's just ask us one more question, and we have to close.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Tanya from Italy, and thank you very much for this conversation, because I came last year for the first time, and there was very little mentioning of social impact issues or well-being issues or empowerment issues. And so I was very glad to see that this is coming into the agenda. But my question for you is, I used to train business leaders to help them make their organizations more sustainable. And where I've seen the least development is in the social side of things, is in the involvement of people, in the empowerment. So how do you find ways to promote the business case for social impact and social sustainability in the business and investment spaces?
Well, I can answer that question, but the step forward is to mutual learning and collective co-creation. So what I intend to do is that we want to create our own house, our own community space, and it's not very easy in WEF to do that. And so that there is a home for this community at WEF, at Davos. And I hope to bridge between WEF, Davos, and outside Davos, because we are all here. We should talk, the first thing.
Let me also add to this question. I think it's very important. In our ImpreTech program, which is really supporting entrepreneur development and training in 60 countries, one of the core components is on mindfulness and emotional intelligence. I think as future business leaders, it's very important to reflect more about the changing realities, reflecting yourself on your purpose, and how and all these essential skills on being mindfulness, being able to have good emotional intelligence is very important for successful entrepreneurship development. So it is part of our program, and I would advocate that in the future we actually have more of those components in these entrepreneurship accelerators, in incubators. We need to work with the commercial side of the incubators and accelerators, right? So one of the actually good example is that when I used to work for UNDP, so we had a program with 500 startups in Indonesia. So then you are partner UN with the very successful commercial incubators, right, accelerators, to bring the expertise from both worlds. So it has development, social expertise, and ESG considerations with the successful commercial expertise. I think we need more of those solutions coming coming together, right? And back to your question on the youth side, the SG actually, as part of the decision for Pact of Future, has established this new office for youth, right? Or a special youth advocate ambassador. So again, her office is open for communication. You can really get in touch with a special envoy for youth. Then and I think in this whole new agenda for Pact of Future, youth was really prominently featured. And then, in fact, our UN country program now have a new focus on youth, right? So I think this engagement advocacy really worked. So, but we, as you said, need more resources to support the youth, particularly jobs in an age of massive disruption and uncertainty.
Okay, response. The Association Wellbeing Economy will start from Hong Kong and Singapore, launching in March. There's special membership for students even, so that they can learn early stage on possibilities. And then, of course, this community that we are developing, hopefully will find a space to host and bridge and then have a voice also into the web and invite them out of the web. So at this point, I got a signal, time's up. So let's see if we can form the Rainbow Warriors at Davos next year, so we can create a better and beautiful future together on this opportunity of our menu meeting in Davos. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, don't forget, if you're interested, it's in the Amazon. It's called Impact Investing for Life Flourishing. And it talks about...
Before you leave, we'd like to ask the audience to please stay for just another moment. So, Mr. Chairman, we would like to give a special thank you to you as one of our biggest supporters. So on behalf of Green Up and the Climate Hub Davos, we just want to present you with a little gift.
That looks
And
very big.
We're so honored that you've been here presenting at our sessions all week. And on behalf of us, I'd like to present a painting by Elena Kupriva, the artist. And this is a representation of the Davos Mountains. And Elena would like to say a few words about that.
Yes. This series of art interior paintings, it is actually to raise awareness about global warming, sorry. Yes. So it correlates with the awareness for the climate change. Yes. Thank you so much.
Let's come back and meet here to see the mountain every year. And let's come back and be a power and a force for good. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you.
Oh, now we are equalizing a little bit taller. Well, the Chinese word's different, but we understand. That's an Indian word.
Okay, I guess you'll be busy, so we'll stay in touch.